Oh, there's just some remnants left. If you can see this panel right here, this is actually angled down, and this piece is over the top of it. So I'm going to take my cut-off wheel, and I'm basically going to slice that all the way through, and then hammer and dolly this back up straight to where this is nice and even, and then I'm going to weld it and then go in there and grind that. Then I got to weld that, then I got to build patch panel inside and outside for this. Alright guys, so the last video I posted showed this, how this was going underneath that. This little piece right here, it's spot welded on from the factory, was angled down. So I ended up taking a cutoff wheel and I sliced it and then hammered this all out. I bent this flange down temporarily right here so I could get in behind there and really get this worked out. But anyway, I've got this pretty even. But this was out further than this, so I put a slice in it right here and then I hammered this in to meet it. So I'm gonna go in here and weld all this up, weld this deal here, and then I'll reshape everything. But there's actually a crack I just noticed right here. This is cracked here and right here. So I'm gonna go in here and weld this pretty good and try to put some strength back into that. But I've still got to weld all this seam up through here, so I've went in here and cleaned this up pretty good. But I am out of weld through primer. I would normally weld through prime down in here, and I'm out, and I'm just not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna put it in there. All right, so I've done a little chopping up here. So the inner structure had quite a bit of rust in an area, so I kind of run around here with a cone burr kind of lightly just to see where some good metal was. So anyway, I cut it out. It's kind of an odd shape and it has a bend in it, but I'll get it done up on my brake in there. But anyway, this was pretty much what went there. So the top up there was pretty bad. I tried to save a little piece of this upper, but I couldn't get to all this, so I had to end up chopping it out. So when I build my new patch for the inside, it'll just be pretty much extended out. And there was a piece here that it's kind of raised up, has a raised area in it, so I chopped it out. And I'm going to build a little separate patch and butt weld it in there too. But anyway, I got the piece cut out here and I got it marked where my bend is going to be. I'll have to file fit it with my angle grinder there. But anyway, so I'll get this all butt welded in, the patch for the inner structure, and then I'll go in there and grind the welds down. And at that point, it'll be pretty much ready to put the outer piece on, which I've already fabbed up here, and I've got the bend in it. So basically cut out a patch to put in there, and I laid it over here on the thing there and pushed real hard to get that curve in it. So I've got the patch pretty much made for that. Now I will drill. I left this indent right here from the factory for the pinch weld where the lead was filling it. So I will actually drill about 4 holes in this, or maybe 3 bigger ones. So when this gets fully perimeter welded, this will have some plug welds too for strength. So that'll pretty much be in there, and that ain't going anywhere. And then I'll build a separate piece for in up here, and then I'll file this edge to get that same contour edge that this has, the curve there, the bend. Anyway, it's time to get to it. All right, well, I got the inner patch put in and all ground. I didn't bother finishing it out really slick, just because it's kind of down from what's going on outside, so it doesn't need to be super slick and nice looking. So anyway, that part's done, thank goodness. Now I got to put the other patch piece in, and then I got to fabricate the other piece, and then I still got to work on this down here. Well, I didn't have any weld-through primer. You're supposed to use weld-through primer underneath stuff when you're patching the inner things, or you open something up, you need to clean behind it, spray that stuff. But I don't have it, and it's the weekend, and O'Reilly's couldn't get it in, and anyway, so I just I blasted that area with my portable blaster before I welded the patch in there that I made. But anyway, I just shot some aerosol self-etching primer. It's better than nothing. This is underneath the panel, so it's at least it's some kind of protection on there. I loaded it on there, man. I just basically just held it. So I know it got down in those pits and stuff. So anyway, it's better than nothing. All right, so here's the outside patch piece I've put on. I still have to build the inner one and weld it together. So I pretty much cut it wide. That way it allows me to pretty much make my gap the way I want it off of the deck lid. So what I did was I've pretty much tacked this in. Now in the factory pinch welder right here, I drilled 3 holes in it and I plug welded it, and then I stitched the outside edge to it, and it's even, so it's a nice butt weld. Anyway, so I've left it pretty wide, and what I did was I closed the trunk lid down, and it actually overlapped it a little bit. And when I got this part even, I took a Sharpie, I took the lid off the Sharpie, and I held it up here to where it was the right angle, because you know, you set that Sharpie up here like this. The different angle you get, you'll get that, you know, to set that mark. So what I did was I figured out where it needed to be right there, and then I held that same angle and worked my way around, and that's how I got my line. So I'll end up going through here and grinding this down. That way I know if I go to that line, it's a perfect one. So what ended up happening yesterday is I used a big Sharpie. I do not like to use the fatter Sharpies because you have 2 sides of a line, you know, and some of it is fat, some of it's thin. So when you're grinding down to a line, you may get a little bit of this. If you use these fine tips like this, you have a real tiny line to grind to. So you know when you grind to that line, it's perfect. It's exactly where you need it. The big ones kind of give you a little bit of a mess, basically. So I lost this yesterday and couldn't find it, and I had it clipped to my shirt right under my neck, and I forgot about it. So I found it last night when I got ready to take a shower, so that kind of sucked. You know, I kind of want to work on this today, but I got to tell you, and you're probably picking up that wind in this GoPro, it is windy today, man. So anytime you weld in the wind, it's not a good time. So I'll probably have to turn my gas up a little bit. But I got to keep going, so that's what I'm going to try to do. I may try to set something up here. I may get one of my tables and turn it sideways there off the side of the car to kind of help block it. Just, anyway, here we go. All right, guys, so I went through here and ground it to the line there, and I didn't actually notice it until I'd already ground this piece. When I pull the deck lid down here and get it even up here, so the line doesn't look too bad, but it actually gets wide right here. So if you caught that in that last video, I had to actually split this up here and pull it out and then re-weld it and then shape it to close that gap up. So I just did it again. I just stuck the cutoff wheel in there and sliced it, and now I'm gonna, you know, pull it out a little bit. This is all I had laying there is my MIG pliers, but I'm gonna pull that just a little bit. I'll pull it back down there and check it. That's too much. It's not much. I mean, it's just a little bitty bit, but you know, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go ahead and fix it. So when I cut this piece out here to put on here and then weld it all, what I'll end up doing is I will lift it up off of it just a little bit to where it meets that, and then I'll just fill it up with weld. But anyway, it's getting intricate, man, I tell you. But again, didn't have to spend any money, just building this stuff, and you know, while I'm at it, while I'm in there, might as well make the gaps fit a little bit better, you know what I mean? Alright guys, I'm just going to turn the camera on and let it go while I sit here and fab this piece up. So the camera is sitting back a little ways because if I happen to do any, you know, grinding or anything, I don't want any sparks to land on the GoPro and mess it up. So I'm just going to let it go, and you probably won't be able to hear me talking much. And there is wind, and I'm sorry. I don't have a microphone, I don't have a windsock, so just going for it. See that mosquito land on my thumb right there? All right. All right, let's try this again. My battery died in the GoPro and I did not know it. So I don't even know how much of that other video is on there, but here I got this thing kind of fit. I just started tacking it in there. Basically, when you build a patch panel and you tack it in, the very first tack you put on it, it's going to move. So that's what heat does to metal. So just be aware that you may have something perfectly fabricated by hand and going to put it in there. When you start welding it in there, it's going to move and change. So I like to put a tack at one side and then let it move when I tack it, and then go in there and try to figure out how to fit it back all over again to make it fit nice. So that's where a little flat pocket blade screwdriver comes in super handy, and I just had it in my hand while ago. What do I do with it? There it is. Because you can get it down in there and, you know, tweak and bend and move all over the place. So I formed this piece to fit that deck lid, so I don't care about all this but this piece here. I could cut this all kinds of jagged. All I care about is that this fits that trunk lid nicely, because I can go in there and fill that with weld and then go back and file that. So I don't know if it cut it off in the video or not, but if you're doing this with two pieces like this where you have a nice rolled edge here, you want a 45 degree this and 45 degree the other piece, and that way when you put that welds in there, the tacks, when you go in and file that, you've got nothing but weld you're working on. If you left that metal straight 90'd and you ground that corner off, you're going to have nothing there. And you may not even, it may be so thin you won't notice it. And then the first few times you slam your trunk lid, it cracks. So do be aware of that. Okay, so when I tack this up here, this actually lifted up, so I need to bend this down a little bit to go in, and I'm going to have a beautiful gap. I think I'll just hold it in there with something. So if you've been noticing me clipping off the end of this, the reason that I clip this just about every time when I'm trying to fit something is MIG wire, after you weld with it, it gets a little ball on the end of it, and it has that, whatever on that ball, it's, the arc marks or whatever it is. So when I go in there and I'm trying to hold this still and get that tack to hit, if you don't cut that, you're going to get something that doesn't really strike right off the bat, and it'll actually, when the wire comes out, it will push your patch, it'll move it. So I like to clip that off to where I know that clean bare metal hits that bare metal and it's going to hit right away. So that's why I've been clipping it. So that metal moved on me again, and I can see it. That's awesome. It's awesome enough, I'll say. All right. So now let's lock this sucker in. When I have a pretty wide gap, I call it jumping the gap, but I like to barely tap that trigger really quick to kind of get that wire to kind of just put a little speck in there before it blows out. Anyway, once I get that to light, that little piece, stuck, then I immediately hit it again with a bigger piece because it just adds that more material in there. So. Alright, now it's getting locked in. It's gonna be pretty nice. Definitely nicer than it was. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and let that cool a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a little patch to fit down in here now. You all bored yet? Pretty much this video is at 10:25, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off because nobody else is going to sit here and watch this all the way through anyway. Alright, so UPS came and I was all excited, thought they were bringing me my Norton Blaze 2-inch grinding disc, but no such luck. I did get my sandpaper though. So anyway, I'm going to wait to grind this so I don't have to jack around with them old used ones that aren't cutting very good. So I'm just going to leave it like this for a little bit until those discs come in, grind all these welds later. But I just wanted to show so far what with the gap. These Tri-5s, the gap is always pretty wide at the bottom, but anyway, that gap is pretty freaking nice. I'm really happy with it. So, man, that was it's quite a bit of work, but I'm happy with it. And again, I didn't have to buy a patch panel; it's just sheet metal. So I've got. Trying to think of how much more metal work I got. I still need to weld the hole up underneath the dash, which is right here. I've showed this before. Somebody drilled a hole underneath the dash, and this is where water and air go through, so this was not a good idea to put a hole here. But anyway, I've cleaned the area of paint around it, and then I put a step bit in there to make sure it's clean on the edge. And then I got just a nail here, and I've cleaned it on the wire wheel to get all the galvanized coating off of it. Anyway, now this nail will fit in there flush, or butt welded in there. But that'll allow me to, it's my filler piece, and then I'll just cut the nail part itself off. But this gives me something to hold on to hold that up in there. As small as it is, you know what I mean? So now I think as far as metal work, I think that may be it. I'll have to look, but that may be it. How cool is that? I do know I have one door for sure that there is a spot of rust on the bottom of the door. It's like where you can stick your pinky up in there. That didn't sound right. But anyway, I'll probably have to cut a little piece and, fab a little 90-degree piece to put in there. Maybe drill a hole for the weather stripping clip. I'm just not sure yet. But I do remember seeing that when I first got the car home and was, climbing all over it, looking at it, everything. But I think that might be it for metal work, man. That'll be pretty freaking awesome. Yep, I think that's it.